Why are so many books and teachings focused around living our purpose in life? What does it even mean to live our purpose? That's what we're exploring today on the Positively Living podcast. I am starting to think, though, that I need to title my episodes The Latest Buzzword, because purpose is yet another one of them. I can think of so many grand examples of trainings and workbooks intended to help you live your purpose. That's purpose with a capital P. And I think that throws us all because it makes us feel as though, one, we're doing something wrong if we're not living our purpose, and two, that it takes a lot of work to figure it out. I don't think either of those is true, and neither does my guest today. Keep listening to find out the surprisingly simple way to find your purpose. You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a coach certified in time and stress management, helping clients make space for what matters most in their lives. Join me each episode and we'll talk about decluttering, stress management, habits, personalized productivity, gratitude, and so much more. I understand the overwhelm of life because I'm a wife, mom to kids and cats, and a former caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and today I welcome Michelle Perry to talk about finding your purpose by paying attention. I was honored to be on Michelle Perry's Successful Diligence podcast twice, and I was a fan of hers before we met because her smooth voice expressed a genuine desire to help others and to dig deep into concepts most people pass over, which, if you've listened to this podcast, you know I love to do. Michelle Perry offers a unique combination of skills from a lifetime of experiences and true resilience. After almost failing out of high school, she earned a bachelor's degree in human development and social work with an education focus from Wheelock College and a master's degree in advanced clinical social work from Columbia University. Her education and decades of experience in social work and in the corporate business world, combined with a life of victory over trauma and loss and financial hardship, has equipped and enhanced her skills as a life empowerment coach. Michelle uses a skills-based cognitive behavioral empowerment approach to contribute to the journey of others who are able to see results and experience an increase in confidence and momentum in their lives. The reason I wanted to talk to Michelle about this topic is because getting clear on your purpose has many benefits. I believe knowing your purpose brings meaning to your life, and when you believe in your purpose, you can be intentional in your choices. Your purpose is a filter for making choices, which is a decluttering approach I describe in Episode 2, Declutter Your Life with the Simple System. It's amazing how resilient you can be when you connect meaning to what you're experiencing, even if it's true hardship. And it's incredible how you show up with energy and enthusiasm and focus when you feel as though you are doing what you are meant to do. Even better, when you do show up this way, you are able to bring kindness to others, to see them and to acknowledge them, which is a precious gift. Michelle believes we were born to share our gifts with other people, and when we realize this, things will click for us. She reminds us that it doesn't take much to make a difference and that a smile could save someone's life. I think we need to embrace this philosophy even more as global stress rises and we experience trauma at every turn. She also sees living your purpose as a process, which I love. One of the best features of a growth mindset is being focused on a process instead of a result, which James Clear also mentions in his book Atomic Habits, so it's excellent for habit development as well. And this is precisely how we're approaching discovering your purpose. Michelle and I talk about life purpose in a different way today, an accessible way. Our conversation covers a lot of ground, but I think you'll find it easy to follow because we highlight the simplicity throughout. She shares a bit about her life of pivots that came from paying attention to clues, to conversations with those she loved, to her gut and her heart. She credits learning to pay attention as the reason she is doing what she loves today, and the secret to discovering her purpose. You'll find out the number one thing you need to do today to start figuring out your purpose, which, spoiler alert, involves stopping and paying attention. Michelle describes what to watch for and listen for, and it reminds me so much of why we find value in meditation and prayer. I do believe in the quiet is where we find our answers, and you can see this concept repeated in discussions of decluttering the mind and seeking quiet to create, featured in works such as David Allen's Getting Things Done and Cal Newport's Deep Work. Once again, it's all connected, and I hope you find that connection with what we share and with your purpose. Welcome, Michelle Perry, to the Positively Living Podcast. Michelle, you and I connected through podcasting, and I've been honored to be on your incredible podcast, Successful Diligence, and I've been on it twice now, so it's about time that you're here with me. And I can remember this fun moment you and I had discovering that we were both fans of each other. So I think it was inevitable that we would collaborate. And while I always find conversations powerful, I mean, it's what I love as a coach and a podcast host, I feel as though the ones you and I have are especially profound. And I'm so looking forward to what we discover together today.
I am so positively exuberant to be here on this podcast, not only because I'm a fan, like a super fan from episode 1, but I remember that moment when we discovered we were fans of each other in that group. And that's when you know you are exactly where you're supposed to be with exactly who you're supposed to be. And I am so excited about today's conversation. It is going to be epic.
I agree. And so let's start with who the other half of this epic conversation is. Michelle, would you please share with us a bit about who you are, who you help, and what makes you light up?
Oh my goodness, that will take a decade. So I'll give you the shortened version. I am a biracial person, and I always say that first because it's a very strong part of my identity that I did not always embrace. And so because it's something I celebrate, I always lead off with that. I'm also a recovering clinical social worker. I was a child welfare worker for 20 years, working with kids and families in the foster care and adoption system, as well as juvenile justice system. The hardest cases, child death, sex abuse, serious injury. And after 20 years, I had to listen to the voice of my wise, wise husband who told me I was becoming crazy. I needed to reevaluate my life and pay attention. And that was when I moved into the corporate world. And that's where I found coaching and discovered that people would actually pay me for that. And so my passion for helping people sort of took a pivot into the coaching world. And that's where the podcast, the school evolved from. I've got an online conference, a book, all the things have really just evolved from a passion for helping people.
Love that. And that really flows so beautifully into what we wanted to talk about today. And I called it Pay Attention and Find Your Purpose. And I know there are going to be so many interesting avenues that we can take with this, but I noticed even in your description that you talked about talking with your hubby and needing to, pay attention to his thoughts and his concerns, and to think about how things were affecting you and what you wanted, and by paying attention you pivoted and now look where you are.
Exactly. And it's so interesting that paying attention has really been the thread in my life that has brought me to where I am. And I'm not a young chicken. I look very young and youthful, but I've been around for a couple decades now.
That's a
And
great combo. Look really good, but have all that wisdom. It's sold.
it's working for me. So I am continuing on this journey. But what I've realized and learned to embrace is that paying attention has been the foundation and continues to be the thread in which I find my life evolve and sort of reveal itself to me. And it's been such an incredible journey so far, and it only keeps getting more exciting. So it's, paying attention is the reason I got into social service. It's the reason I got out of social service. It's the reason I do what I do. It really is the foundation and the skeleton of my life. So.
I love that. So when we were deciding that we wanted to talk about paying attention and finding your purpose within that, I thought, well, as I always like to do, let's start by defining and exploring the concept. To start is, what does it mean to have purpose, and why are we searching for it? Why do we care if we find it? What do you think?
Yeah, it's such a sort of cliche thing nowadays. People talk about, oh, let's find your purpose, step into your purpose. What is your purpose? What does that even mean, right? And
Mhm.
when I was actually living out and living into my purpose, I didn't use the word purpose. I didn't know what that was. But what I've learned and what I know to be true is that purpose reveals himself to us as we continue to show up and walk the journey of our life. And for me, I almost think of purpose as an assignment, meaning that when I was born, there was something intrinsically within me that needs to come out into the world for the benefit of others, that is uniquely mine, just like my fingerprint. And it's my assignment to find it, to curate it, to celebrate it, to honor it, and to bring it out, to gift it to other people, so that when I leave this earth, I leave empty.
Hmm. So a big part of that you've mentioned multiple times in this description is for the benefit of others.
Yes, I am a huge believer, and I don't know that anyone could debate me out of this thought and this conviction that our lives are not meant to be lived for ourselves. I really don't believe that. I believe that we were born to be a gift to other people, and each gift unwraps itself differently in different seasons. And some of us have a couple gifts, meaning talents, things that we can present to people. Some of us only have one, some of us have two, three, four, five, whatever it is. But it really, our life belongs to other people. It doesn't belong to us. And I think we forget that in our own humanness and our own, sort of selfish, I don't know, pursuit.
Mhm.
But when we remember that, and when we sort of tune into that, I find that people find the joy and peace that they're aching for and that they're looking for in life.
That's so powerful. And I can think of examples where, when we get caught up in ourselves, when we get frustrated, unsure, when we have imposter syndrome and we're dealing with fear and guilt and all of those things, frequently, a recommendation I know that I've made in coaching is to look outside yourself. Who can you help? Stop thinking so much that it's about you or what about you in this situation, and think more about, for example, when you're showing up and you're nervous. I can remember, the first time I had a workshop and I was nervous, and I thought, it's not about me and the job I do. It's about what I can offer to my audience. Have faith, show up, be genuine, and it'll all work out. And it's that kind of thing. I notice that with my clients a lot, when it's like, when you put it on someone else, when you seek to understand, when you seek to serve, yeah, you do become a lot more calm.
Yeah, there's sort of like, it's a zone you enter into. It's like this zen that you get into when you are walking in alignment with service, the part of you that understands that the human being in front of you, whether it's on a stage, whether it's on a Zoom call, whether it's on the other end of a telephone, whether it's on the other end of receiving an email or a Facebook post or whatever it is, that human being needs something that you have. And what a gift to have something that someone else needs, and you can give that and offer it to someone. I mean, that is, I think, the biggest blessing of my life, is to recognize that there's something I have that I can give to someone else to make them smile, to make their life better. Like, what an amazing thing we have to offer others.
Right. And it can be so, so simple because I think sometimes we make it out bigger than it is or needs to be in that. I was thinking about this idea of a purpose and paying attention and this idea that we all long to be acknowledged and to be understood.
Or even just seen. You know, I got
Yes.
into social service because of a very traumatic event that happened when I was 17 years old.
Okay.
And it was because there was a boy who had a life that was not seen or heard. And I call it the unspoken narrative that was heard. That's sort of I just wrote a book, and that's the dedication is to the one whose unspoken narrative was heard. And, you know, in his passing, he was seen, and my sort of purpose that was revealed from that traumatic event that I witnessed is that I have the opportunity to honor something that was lost by paying attention to every single person that I possibly can. And, you know, when I used to live in New York City and ride the subway before this is pre-COVID era, when it was packed and
Hmm.
everybody was there and you could see people's faces, when I would make eye contact with people and they would recognize that they were seen and I smiled, the look on their face of being acknowledged as a human, being seen, and having some sort of kindness from another human being, I felt the power of that. And that's paying attention to someone else as being worthy and of value simply for being there.
Simply for being. Yes. Yeah. And it's that idea of, you lend a smile and, it's that ripple effect and you offer a smile, you get one back. Because I know every time I do these things, yeah, this is all wrapped up too in acts of kindness that can be, again, so simple.
And so powerful because you never really know where a person is in their life when that smile or that look that acknowledged that they are seen and heard
Hmm.
could potentially, literally save someone's life or give them the courage to say, I can do this one more day, one more hour. I can stand up to whatever it is I have to face. And because we never know that, that is why I am so intentional and purposeful every single day with every interaction that I have with someone. And on the days that I forget to be that purposeful and intentional, because let's face it, we all have flaws, we are imperfect beings, I forgive myself, extend grace to myself, and pay attention to myself as well, because I matter just as much as that other person.
Absolutely. Maybe that was the day that you needed the kindness, right? That we
Exactly,
need to extend it to
exactly.
ourselves. And I'm liking this idea, these simple and powerful interactions represent a purpose that is built in. And so when we're spending this time philosophizing or having like crazy, crazy memes about life purpose or Calvin and Hobbes, it's got some great, great reflections. Thank you, Bill Watterson, on life purpose, that it becomes this big thing. And what I'm feeling from what you're saying is it's already built in. Take the action, and
Yeah.
you'll keep discovering it, you'll keep honing it, and it will adjust and flow as you go.
It's intrinsically built into the model of being human being, and it can be walked out in daily practical implementation. It can be something so small as making a cup of coffee for my tired husband
Mm,
that gives him comfort that, wow, you know, my wife cares about me.
yeah.
Or bringing, I remember when we used to go back into the office, my coworker, she makes the most amazing mac and cheese. I mean, the most incredible mac and cheese. I've never had mac and cheese like this. Oh, shout out to Nicola. She is the greatest cook.
How do I meet Nicola? How do we get her?
What's
How
her
can I
number?
hang out with her? What's her
She's amazing. She has 4 kids, a husband, and 4 dogs, and she still cooks from scratch. Like, she's amazing.
Mm,
But she would surprise me with like homemade goodies, like her salted caramel chocolate chip cookies and her mac and cheese. And it was always on a day that she had no idea I needed comfort. And for me, her food was comfort. And, you know, she wasn't even paying attention to me. She was paying attention to an urge to cook or to make something or to bring something in,
Mm-hmm.
and it benefited me. And so I bring that up only because sometimes when we have those urges or those thoughts that seem to come out of nowhere and we're like, okay, where'd that come from? Follow through on those, because you never know if it's meant for someone else to be a gift or a blessing, or even for yourself, you know? So listen to those little whispers that come every day. Pay attention to those, because there's purpose in the little whispers.
Absolutely. And when you're paying attention, even when you begin by acknowledging yourself that this is something that you love to do, that you feel it's like the joy list worksheet that I have of what lights you up, right? I always ask that question because it's a really important reason. And you and I were talking about this before, that when we acknowledge and seek out the things that light us up, we're so energized and we show up differently. So when
Yeah.
we do that, we can show up with more kindness and, more support, and we can more readily see people. We're not as frustrated when we are tired and drained, unpurped, just cranky.
Grumpy.
We're grumpy, hangry. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. When we are in those moments, it's so difficult for us to lift our heads up and look around and pay attention, like you said. But when we use paying attention to those whispers, like you call them, and those urges and those things that we love, even if it begins with, this is something that I just feel, and I don't have to have a reason. It's just something I love. Let's do this. It's amazing how you discover later that
Yeah.
there's an even deeper potential connection to that.
Yeah. One thing that I've learned about curating attention,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so funny that I even just said that word right now, because I'm paying attention to our conversation in the moment. This is sort of getting meta, but I've never phrased it that way, curating
I
attention. But
love
I
that.
really do curate attention in my life. And what I've noticed is that the more that I pay attention and show up in truth and authenticity, the more I discover about who I really am at the core and in truth. And that allows me to give myself permission to be, period, to
Yeah.
be, and to be me in truth and accept myself, flaws and all, give myself the grace and the kindness that I need, but to pay attention to what I need as well. And what I love about purpose is that as I continue to show up and walk, and my key motto in life is keep walking. So just
Mm-hmm.
keep walking. And what I find is that I discover purpose. Purpose reveals herself to me. And if I pay attention, that's when the beauty of everything that we're talking about sort of manifests and comes to life.
I love that. Yeah. And so it's again, I love the word simple, so I use it quite a bit, but there's something so brilliant in that, because I truly believe that we love to overcomplicate things, that we
Yes.
feel as though complexity and value are equal, and they are not. It can be this simple. So this idea of paying attention, and as you go, because you're paying attention. And of course, that self-awareness thing, we talked about it on your podcast, and talking about, even simply decluttering and being more productive, and things along that line. From understanding ourselves, same idea here. So we pay attention and we have, you know, these wonderful discoveries as we go about what our purpose is. And as I was reflecting on this, like, what are we going to talk about with purpose? When you come to understand that better and better, each step you take, each time you have a bit more understanding about you, how you want to show up, you can be more intentional and live in a way that feels more meaningful. And to me, the brilliance of that is when we have that meaning, doesn't it help us be more resilient?
Oh, absolutely. And
Right?
I was also thinking in your line of work, the simplicity of clearing out all of that clutter,
Mm-hmm.
not just the physical clutter, because I know you're very value based,
Yes.
but also that mental and emotional clutter. When we clear that out and we get down to the simplicity, the clarity that shows itself allows us to really embrace exactly what we're talking about. And it really doesn't have to be hard. And our human brains, yes, we are like incredible machines, our computer brains and all of the things, but boiled down, we don't have to overcomplicate things and oversimplify. I mean, overthink and overcomplicate things, like you said.
Mhm.
The simplicity sometimes is the purest form of wisdom that we can tap into.
Oh, absolutely. When you are the true teachers, I believe, are the ones who can take the most potentially complex thing and distill it down into its simplest form. And I believe that's what you're doing for us today. So, which I
I call it
love.
knowing something. Like when you know something,
Hmm.
you own it. And when you own it, then you can give it away. And I always say this on my podcast, is that you cannot teach what you don't know.
Hmm.
And you can't know something unless you've experienced it, gone through it, own it. And then when you own it, you can give it away. Like if I don't have a car myself, I can't give you a car. But if I own the car, then I can give it to you and go get another one. Right? So if I don't have peace, I can't give peace to someone else.
Hmm.
But if I have peace myself, then I can offer a space of peace and invite you into it so that you can tap into it for yourself as well.
Absolutely. And this is that connection as to why I love helping to simplify and declutter. And again, on the inside, because when we get rid of, and in this case, I don't always say decluttering is getting rid of, but I do like to say we're making space for something, but sometimes it is getting rid of the things that do not serve us. And
Yeah.
when we open up that space, that's why I said, we are able to be kinder and more patient, and we are able to get to that point of paying attention because we're not so distracted. And that's a big thing too, with like all the information that we have surrounding us. I love that we have the world at our fingertips, truly, truly. But we have to be, again, that goes back to another word you and I love to use for a reason: intentional
Yeah.
about what we seek out, right?
I don't know that I love that we have all the access we have now, because I think it gets so convoluted.
Mm.
Yes, I like that we are elevating and evolving and growing, and I like that part, but I think sometimes it tends to convolute and complicate things for people because there's ideas and thoughts that come that are not yours, that don't
Mhm.
belong to you, that don't serve you, that maybe if I was never introduced to that idea, I might have been better off.
Mm.
But once you know something, once you hear something, once you see something, you cannot unknow it, unsee it, unhear it. And so that's why I'm also a big proponent about guarding and protecting myself and paying
Yes.
attention to what I allow into my world, into my mind, into my emotions and spirit, and all of that, because I'm that valuable, that I'm worth protecting. And so I think it's important that while we have access and increasingly more access,
Mm.
to also pay attention to what belongs to us, what is for us, what serves us, and what does not, and to release it, make space for, and really incorporate what is really for us and our lives, because not everything is for everybody.
Oh, this is so good. Yes. It's great that we have options, but we have to be selective. And I love that not everything is for us and those ideas. I think this is especially true for our fellow entrepreneurs, don't you? Because
Yes.
it's so easy when you're new. These are the people that I love to work with. I have all the ideas, I have all the interest, I have all the passion. And it's like, that's great, but not all the things need to be done right now. Not all the things need to be done by you. Not all the things are meant for you and what you're trying to do. Let's be selective. Yeah, we need to be so careful. So I guess it's one of those things where all of that information, it's wonderful that there's the option, but we have to proceed with caution.
Yeah, and
Right?
and with intention and purpose and understanding, because not all the shiny objects are I love certain gemstones,
Hmm.
but not all of them are supposed to be worn on my body. you know and I always think about, and this is something I've had to struggle with and really come to terms with for myself, because when you are gifted with a lot of talents or things that you're able to do or things that come easy to you,
Hmm.
that doesn't mean that you're supposed to do them all. When I was in high school, got into theater and acting and Broadway and singing. And my mother always wanted to be a Broadway, superstar and go into that world. She's a nurse midwife, which is
Mm-hmm.
her zone of genius, right? But she would push me to go into the theater. I didn't want that. I was good at it. I was talented. I had a lot of people behind me, but just because I can do that doesn't mean that I should do that. And I think about if I had pursued that, how many people that I have impacted, how many kids and families that I have worked with that have benefited from me and my life and what I have to offer would have lost out if I had pursued that thing. That was good. There's nothing wrong with it,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't for me to do to live out my purpose, what my assignment is, what I'm supposed to be gifting the world with.
Yeah. And the zone of genius that you reference, for anyone who hasn't heard this yet, it has been mentioned in other podcast episodes for a reason. It's wonderful, from the book, The Big Leap. And this idea of being, when you think of someone being in the zone, right? And so it kind of fits that wording. You don't even have to know exactly what this phrase means to understand conceptually. It means that you are exactly where you're meant to be, and you're in a flow state where you are doing truly what you feel you are meant to be doing. And many, many times we can be in the book, they describe different zones, and one of them is the zone of excellence. And I work with a lot of people who have many, many zones with a lot of excellence in there. And so I think, again, that's that paying attention and being selective idea of saying, okay, I am really good at that. And just this past week, from our recording, we had a shout out to Liz and decluttering through delegation, the same idea. And I said these words. This is why I wanted Michelle on here, because we need to be talking about these things. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. This
Exactly.
so important. You are
Exactly.
so on point with this. So with that idea, it's saying, okay, fine, there are some things that I'm really incredible at, but is that where I'm meant to be? Is that the true purpose? Is that the gift I'm meant to be bringing? Let's keep discovering and being
And
sure.
also, to take it to another level, is
Mm-hmm.
this the season for me to be doing that?
Yes.
Because I just finished writing, I'm about to self-publish my first book.
Yes. I'm so excited for you.
This book has been on the radar since I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
That was decades, like couple decades, not just one or two.
Yes.
That was
Right.
several decades ago. It was never the right season for it, but I was always writing and journaling, and
Mm-hmm.
life presented opportunities to hone that craft and what have you. And when the season for that gift to be presented came, I had to pay attention to realize, oh, this is the season. Go now. The green light is now finally turned green. It's gone from
Yes.
yellow to green. Let's go and hit the gas. And sometimes it's not the season that you thought it was, or the package you thought it would come in. Because
Mm-hmm.
for me, 2020, and I will think for a lot of people, 2020 is not the year that we thought it would be, right? And for me, I thought there were certain projects I'd be working on
Mm-hmm.
that have not really been what I was supposed to be working on. And by paying attention in January and February and March, I was able to pivot and shift and show up every day to get into my zone of genius and my zone of excellence to present what is needed for this season that I am supposed to offer and show up and give the world.
Yeah, this comes right back to the things we've been talking about in terms of resiliency, and which we've needed a lot of during the year that we're recording this, 2020. And we need to be able to pivot and change things up as we feel it's right. And I'll tell you, I thought this was going to be my year of the book. Hello, podcast.
Which, you could argue is an audiobook
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of some
Absolutely. And
sort.
it's definitely a precursor to it. It creates the content and helps me like work through these ideas that I have, and it works through in a way where I know that I'm meant to be. I adore conversations. I find the magic in them to be so powerful, and I feel as though right now this was what the world needed from me, because it's not only me sharing my thoughts, but bringing people
Yeah.
like you into our fold and being able to talk through these things and to encourage and to bring hope. To me, that's a great example for my purpose. And you had this idea of your book, which I'm so excited about, that, I mean, that's been for many years because that's when you had this experience. But honoring the season you're in and honoring the time in which you have the energy for it,
Mm.
all of that, you're talking about techniques for decluttering as well as finding your purpose. It's all linked together. And with this in mind, can we sort of wrap up or create someone listening right now wants to take the first step? What is that first step today when they're like, okay, what do I need to do to pay better attention, if you will, to do what Michelle's saying that I can do to be able to discover, fine tune. I think I have some ideas. What do I do first?
I think the first thing to do, and it's going to go back to that concept of simplicity,
Mm-hmm.
is to stop. Just
Yes.
literally stop your body, stop your mind, stop your voice, and literally just, even if it's for 3 to 5 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
do and be absolutely nothing. Just stop. That's the first step. The second step is to pay attention to what thoughts come to your mind, what your body feels like, what emotions start coming up, and to pay attention to your breathing. Because breath is so important and primary to tapping into what is going on inside of you. So I think that's really the first step, is stopping and then paying attention to your thoughts, your emotions, your physical body, and your breath.
That's really good. And somewhere, I wish I knew the exact detail because I just read it. There's some link to when we breathe, it changes something in our brain that allows us to focus differently.
It
I will
does.
have to find that.
It
Yeah.
changes the brain wave, but also I did a podcast episode with a woman who is a myofascial something expert, and I know I messed it up, forgive me. But she was talking about when we breathe through our nose
Mm-hmm.
versus our mouth, that there are physical, I don't know if it's pheromones or hormones that are actually released when we breathe out through our nose that are not occurring when we're breathing out through our mouth. And our brain actually needs those. And so I was like, oh, wow. So now I'm much more intentional in paying attention to breathing through my nose versus mouth breathing, because it's so much better for your brain
Mm-hmm.
to breathe through your nose. And so I had no idea that breathing was so important. There are books on Amazon just on breathing, and it is central to our physical being, but also our mental, emotional, and spiritual being as well. Breathing is so primary and so foundational and so simple that I
Mm-hmm.
think we overlook it so often.
And so there's a connection there to yogic practice and yogic breathing. So that's why that's important. And of course, when you were talking about quieting, in the quiet is where the answers come. People will find this in many different ways. They will find it through meditation. They will find it through prayer. You can find it from a productivity standpoint in something like Cal Newport's Deep Work,
Mm.
where he talks about really blocking the distractions that are out there. I mean, he shuts down everything. He's good luck if you want to email this man. I think maybe he'll check it once a month, or maybe he doesn't, or he has somebody else who will. And yeah, I respect that. I love being available, but I respect what he's saying, because there is something that incredible that happens when we create the quiet. And this is also with David Allen, Getting Things Done. I've mentioned these over and over again because he talks about the fact that our brains are meant to create, not meant to hold information. So
Yeah.
all of these things are connected. That's fantastic. So that is, to me, that step one is most important, because from there, you can reach out to Michelle and to me, and we can talk about the next thing. What did you discover? Share with us. I would love if you would message us, email me through the link on the podcast, and let me know. Did you stop? Did you breathe? What did you discover? I'd be very curious about that. And I
What
think
thought came up?
exactly. And speaking of stopping, I think this is the Perfect place to take a breath, to pause, and to wrap this up and let everyone sit with this information, to try it and to let them go on their own discovery. So let's have a little bit of fun and inspiration to wrap things up. And answer this for me, please. Fill in the blank. The song that always makes me dance
Is Masterpiece by Jessie J.
Nice. Okay.
Love
And
that song.
how about the quote or the mantra I share all the time?
It'll be no surprise to you. Keep walking, and on the journey, always, always choose gratitude.
Yes. And it's like the perfect setup, because the next thing I was going to ask is what or whom are you grateful for today, Michelle?
Today, I'm grateful for you for so many reasons. And I think I said before we even got on the recording is that your voice is such a blessing to my life. Just the quality, the tone, the energy and the spirit that comes from you through your voice always brings such positivity to me in my life every time I hear it. That's why I am such a fan of your podcast, because whenever I need to hear it, I can just hit play. I love it. And also just for the opportunity to see you, talk with you, and to just have a conversation with you, because you are so, so special. And I'm so glad we're connected.
Oh, I'm so humbled by that. Thank you. And I feel the same way about you, and I am grateful for you. And what did you want to share in terms of things that the listeners can get from you? Obviously, your book will be coming up, where they can find you online. Where should we go to find more of Michelle?
I would say the best place to find me is successfuldiligence.com, giving me grace because I'm rebranding. So 2021, the new website's coming, but all the links to everything are at successfuldiligence.com.
Yes.
The podcast can be found on all podcast platforms, and the book will be on Amazon as of September 28th, 2020.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay, well, we will have those links in the show notes, so they'll be able to find you also on social media as well, so we can all hang out together. And I'll make sure we have all of that in the show notes, so it'll be easy to find. And thank you. Thank you, Michelle, for shining your light in this world and for sharing it with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. This has been positively wonderful.
One of the greatest gifts you can give anyone is the gift of your attention. Jim Rohn. Thank you for joining me on the Positively Living podcast. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you'd like more information on today's show, you can find a link to the show notes on positivelyproductive.com/podcast. If you found value in this show, please click subscribe, and even better, give a quick review on iTunes. It supports me and will help others find the show. If you'd like more positive content, come join me on social media. Positively Productive on Facebook and positively_Lisa on Instagram. Get ready for kids, cats, and all my quirky humor over there. I look forward to having you join me next episode. Until then, keep it positive and keep making space for what matters most.